College football is about to make another huge change. This might be the last year that Nebraska has a traditional spring football practice. College football insiders and coaches around America expect going into 2026 that spring practices will be completely abolished in favor of a summer NFL model. So in today's video, I'm going to inform you on everything you need to know. Are spring practices actually going away? What is Nebraska's stance on this? What are the pros? What are the cons, and everything else you need to know about this big time situation? So really quick, man, college football is changing quick. If you miss the old days, because I know I do, hit that like button. And also, hey, if you support what I'm doing here, daily Husker football content, even in these tough months of the off season, it really helps me out more than you know. Please hit that subscribe button. Once again, please join this family. Helps me out so much. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it, talking about how this 2025 could be the last year that Nebraska ever has a traditional spring practice. Now, spring practices have been the model of college football for as long as college football has been around. Starting in March, teams have about 30 days to practice in the spring. They have about 15 practices, and they usually end with a spring game. Now, of course, spring games are pretty much going away, but spring ball might be next, and you guys probably already know why. The number one culprit is the transfer portal. And, let's just right off the bat talk about the transfer portal, why spring ball is going away. We'll get into what it's going to look like in the future because it's going to happen. Spring ball will probably not be here going into 26, going into 27. So we'll get into what it's going to look like. But why is this happening? What are the pros and the cons? Well, the first thing is the portal. And this is the thing that's scaring a lot of programs is they don't want their players to get poached. Hugh Freeze, who's the coach at Auburn right now, he said he doesn't even want to do spring practice this year because he knows his players are going to get poached. And I think a lot of people are going to argue that these programs are living in fear. They're scared that, these players are going to leave, go to greener pastures, and that's not the best for college football. And I completely agree with these guys. You could say that these programs are living in fear that a player might leave. But at the exact same time, these programs are also being smart. They might have a young player, who they want to preserve for the long-term, future of their program, right? And I know the spring games are gone, and that limits exposure, so there's going to be less poaching. But still, there might be a player who balls out in spring practice, right? And he's not as high in the depth chart as he wants to be, and he, sits there at the end of April and says, "Hey, man, I balled out all spring long. I'm still not in the two deep. I'm going to leave and enter the portal." That's still going to happen. So for that reason, because of the transfer portal, because a lot of these programs getting scared, a lot of coaches in the SEC in particular, but even some Big Ten coaches, they want it to move to the summer, which is past the spring deadline. So basically nobody can enter the portal. So that's pretty much the main reason why they want to move it back. You talk about injuries as well. There's a huge injury concern with spring practice, particularly with how late the season's getting. If you're a college football playoff team like Ohio State ended their season in late January. They have to start spring practice in late March. They have basically 2 months of an off season, to rest their bodies, to completely recover going into, spring practice, which is very important. And that's not even including winter conditioning. So there's a huge, emphasis on injuries now with, the season getting longer. So those are some of the pros of moving it back. I completely agree. But, talking about the cons, man, it's terrible for the fans. It really, really is if spring ball goes away because, again, the spring game in particular is already gone. It's not going to come back. But spring ball being gone just hurts the fandom. It hurts, we need something to talk about in spring practice. We need something to talk about in the months of March and April. We won't have that anymore going into the summer. So that's why it's going to go away. I feel very confident in saying that. Now, what's it going to look like? What's Nebraska's stance on this? And everything else you need to know. So what's going to happen, whether it's in 26, 27, 28, it's irrelevant. It will happen. That spring practice will basically get moved into basically late May, June, July, whereas a team is going to start spring practice, let's say mid-May, late May, right when the school semester ends. They go for about a month going into late June. They cap it off with some kind of event, and then they have about a month of recovery, and then they go into fall practice. This is the same mold as OTAs right now in the NFL, where again they'll go for about a month. They'll have a certain level of practices, and then they'll be done going into fall training camp. Same thing as the NFL. That's basically what it's going to look like. Now, again, I don't love this, and Matt Rhule doesn't love this because it doesn't help the development of your players. And Matt Rhule said this specifically. He said the other day that you train players in college, you coach them in the NFL. Basically, what you do in college, you make a player a better player, you develop them. But when they get to the NFL, they don't need as much development. They're already kind of a finished product. So a lot of these developmental things, they happen in spring practice, and you really couldn't transfer that over to summer ball, especially if a lot of these guys are transferring out. These smaller schools like Tulane, they aren't focused on buying players. They're focused on developing them. So, overall, Matt Rhule is very against moving it, to these OTA styles into the NFL. And he's been in the NFL. He knows how it works. So he has a very, educated opinion on this. But I will say this about Matt Rhule and his opinion, and we'll talk a little bit about, the pros and the cons. Matt Rhule's opinions aren't set in stone. Right now he might not like the OTA model, but he might sit here in about 2 years and have some players get poached, and you'll see more of the drawbacks, and he might say, man, I actually do like the OTA model. Because he's already done that. When he got to Nebraska 2 years ago, he said he didn't like the transfer portal. He was going to use it very rarely. And then this year he said, yeah, I completely changed up my philosophy. I'm going to take 15 plus guys in the portal because that's the way college football is moving. So I would put that quote with a grain of salt right now with Matt Rhule because he's been known to change his opinions. But that's kind of my same opinion as well. Spring practice, we need this for the fans. We need this more importantly for the development of the team. There are a lot of benefits, and if you move it back, it's just going to make the offseason a lot harder for these squads. The development won't be as easily done. Again, there's not as much time to develop. You don't have as much of a rest going into fall practice. And again, there's just a lot of downtime. If you have, all spring off, what are you really going to be doing? Is that really going to be helping your football career? So, and those are really the cons. But more than anything, man, I just think it hurts the tradition, particularly Nebraska. College football can't change everything. And that's the thing that I think they're doing right now is they're trying to change up everything. It's so commercialized nowadays. They're playing all these indoor stadiums all the time, all these kickoff games. It just feels like it's professional at every level. And I hate it because they're ruining what makes college football unique. Spring practice is one of the things that is so exciting as a college football fan to kind of have an early glimpse of your team. They already ruined the best part of spring practice, which is, the spring game. But now getting rid of this, which is going to happen, is just the kind of the final blow to the ways this is going. And we knew the ramifications of the transfer portal when it started, but man, I never thought it was going to get like this. So overall, man, again, spring practice, I think it's pretty much gone. Again, we're in the last couple years of it. It'll get moved to the summer just because I think these programs are living in fear, man. They don't want some of these guys to get poached. They don't want these players to have freedom and say, hey, I balled out in spring practice. I'm going to go ahead and leave and go to greener pastures. It's all these coaches and these programs being selfish. It's really what it is, man. And it's all about the greedy dollar as well, but that's a story for another day. So overall, spring practice looks like it is gone going forward. I just kind of wanted to make a video about this because I'm not happy about it. It's really sad, and it hurts me as a content creator because that means if it goes away, I have less stuff to talk about in the months of March and April and May, and it is what it is. So I absolutely want to hear what you have to say. Take a minute, take 30 seconds. Please comment your stuff down below, your opinion on this. If you like this, if you don't like this, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to read it. Let me know in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far of the video, you know what to do. Please hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go Matt Rhule. See you in the next one.